When I look at our veterans here today, just as I look at our current serving soldiers in places like Afghanistan and around the world, your heart can't help but fill with pride and with gratitude. These men before us, who served in previous conflicts, are true heroes. The Canadian forces are the Canadian team. And these men are real heroes. And these women are real heroes.
Sir.
Welcome to one of the secret sites in the city of Brantford, the Military Museum. And I can tell you that it was started in 1993 in this same building, and the building was, there's been so much work done. It's truly amazing what has been gathered here. I have no idea really the number of artifacts, but it's in the thousands.
One of our main fundraisers in the Military Museum is our building block program. For $250 you can buy a brick, and the brick has your name on it, and the $250 helps support the museum, and every individual $250 that is donated to the museum, a star is added to your plaque with your name, and it's quite a thing. We have some here with as high as 30 and 40 stars on them. One of our most important artifacts of the Military Museum is the Cockshut Plough Company Roll of Honor. From 39 to 45 are the names of 1,000 men and women that worked at Cockshut Plough Company that served in the armed forces. And out of the 1,000 names, the ones in the gold are the ones that didn't return from Europe. And this is a very important piece of Brantford history and very important to the Military Museum. One of the popular things of the museum for young people is our tray of artifacts that came from battlefield finds from France in the First World War, France and Belgium. These are plowed up in the fields like stones, and these were sent over to us, and the kids are able to touch them, pick them up, touch artifacts that were actually used in the Great War of Civilizations. And this here is the 1812 section. We are working on a very large 1812 section for the 1812 centennial coming up. It's going to be a super event.
When you come to the Military Museum in Brantford, you'll see a display on the American Revolution itself. And this is important because this is the beginning of the settlement in this area. Not only our Six Nations allies that settled along the Grand River, but also loyalists that were invited to come in along the Grand River, as well as settling in the counties around us. And so in the book Western Who's of Thunder, we have an animated scene of the first event that took place in Brantford when General MacArthur came in with the 700 troops to the Dobney Creek Brant Fording Place area before he went on to Oakland and meet the 400 militia that were waiting there for him. And right here in front of us at the museum, we have a miniature display of the Americans coming into the Grand River and meeting a handful of military personnel with some warriors and some militia. And this sword was found on the actual site, and it's likely that an American officer had dropped the sword into the mud and not relocated it, and it's been buried for nearly 200 years. This is an area that's very important to us, especially in this community, and that's when we're speaking about the Six Nations allies. And here's a photo image of 6 veterans of the War of 1812 from the Six Nations with assorted wampum belts. So when you come down to the Military Museum in Brantford, you're actually going to see artifacts that go back as far back as 1,000 years and even more. This area was absolutely rich with First Nations settlements and villages. And so we just didn't have this area start after the American Revolution and the settlement of the Grand River Valley. It predates that. So you'll have various displays of artifacts related to those times.
That a Second World War Canadian soldier would have worn, along with artifacts from Dieppe.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Clare. I'm a member of the museum here, also a member of Polish combatants in Brantford and the Royal Canadian Legion. As a member here, or in the past, I've come out to different functions. A lot of people don't realize that you have this great museum right in the heart of downtown Brantford. And you've had other interviews with different members and veterans. People have different specific interests in this museum. And my sort of relationship or interest in the museum is the fact that they have a little section here on the raid on Dieppe, which took place in August of 1942, and of which my father was a part. If I can point out, there's a small picture here of a group of Canadian soldiers being marched off the beach. And this is my father in the front right. He was a medical officer attached to the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, and of course was captured. The picture just below it actually happens to show a burning LCT, landing craft tank. That was his first aid station until the tide started coming in and taking his wounded back out to the sea and starting to drown them. At that point in time, my dad, being the senior officer alive on the beach, decided to take matters into his own hands and used one of his last triangular bandages, grabbed an abandoned rifle, tied the bandage to it, and stood around the front of the landing craft and started waving it. And after that, that was it, the game over, and the Germans started rounding everybody up. So this is actually just one of the small displays, one of the many small displays in this great museum. You could follow the chronological order from before the War of 1812 right around the entire museum up until modern times, ending up with the peacekeeping section across from us here. Bring your parents, bring your grandparents. You just never know what they might see in here that might spark a memory, and certainly it will bring the realization of what previous generations went through in order for you, people watching this video now, to enjoy the freedom that you do have.
My name is Paul Loiko, and I am a veteran World War II. When I was 17, I was joined Polish Carpathian Lancers 2nd Corps. I am veteran. I'd like to join War Museum because still in my heart to show future generation how much people for freedom spend time, young life spent in the army to provide freedom for rest, for self and the rest of the world.
It shows a lot of pictures of the Korean soldiers from Canada, all the different units that served over there as Canadian soldiers. Very proud section here. And not too much spoken of the Korean unit, Korean soldiers in
I'm standing today with Mr. Bill Little and Mr. Bud Keaton here in front of the Korean War display. These two gentlemen I have the privilege of knowing since I was 6 years old. And my grade 1 teacher found them both in Tim Hortons on Remembrance Day, and they came to my class and explained to me their story about the Korean War.
I was a platoon sergeant in the PPCLI, Princess Patricia's. The Canadian regiment that is still serving overseas in Afghanistan.
I was with the 2 PPCLI, Princess Patricia's, 2 in Korea. I was a rifleman. This is the flash we wore on our uniform, Canadian Special Forces. We're all volunteers. We weren't drafted. And this is the uniform they issued us.
And that's called a battle dress.
Battle dress.
Which they don't wear anymore. They wear
the green.
The jolly green giant or jumper. The best uniform that was ever worn by a soldier. From the beginning, the first war that Canada ever fought in, up until the last events of the peacekeepers right now. And this is a fantastic place to visit and renew memories.
Starting now, it's of the Afghanistan conflict. We're using a lot of things from soldiers that have returned, some that didn't return, that were killed overseas. We have all of Larry Rudd's accoutrements and everything that he wore over there. And so we're building on this as the days go on. There's just a few of the artifacts you see in the museum, whereas we have close to 20,000, between 18 and 20,000 artifacts that are very important to us. We have an awful lot in storage, and we do depend on donations still coming in of artifacts and of monetary donations, which keep us afloat and make this museum something that's very, very significant to the people of Brantford and Brant County or surrounding areas. And we hope that you do come down and visit our museum. It's something that you'll be very surprised when you do come here and see.
Mr. Speaker, Poland's modern history has been dominated by a burning sense of freedom amongst its people. And to this, the world bared witness as hundreds of thousands of Polish soldiers fought bravely alongside Canadians to free Europe from fascism and tyranny during World War II. The Polish were instrumental to many of the greatest Allied triumphs, including the heroic Battle of Monte Cassino, which paved the way for the Allied to push to Rome. Brantford's Paul Loyko was there, and it was his vision to commemorate his fellow soldiers and Canadian comrades to ensure that their memory lives on. On September the 18th, I participated in the culmination of that vision as the Brantford Polish combatants unveiled a new memorial to honor those soldiers and all those who endured hardships. A huge crowd gathered to attend the wonderful unveiling ceremony, making the dedication a very moving and lasting tribute. It is our duty to never forget the sacrifices of our veterans. We will remember them.